Okay, I think we're live. I'm just gonna tweak my webcam now. I'm a bit too low. All right, hello everyone. Can you hear us? Before we start answering some questions, just let us know if the mics are working. I don't think we've ever actually had a problem with this so far, but it's still probably best to check. So, can you hear me? Am I a good audio level? And how is Nicky?
Hey everybody, how are you?
Are we about the same volume? We've got some yes, but I think that was my first question. Do we sound roughly okay? People aren't going to get annoyed if we go on like this. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. People will let us know if not, and I can tweak it on OBS. So yeah,
Sounds good. Yeah.
welcome to GameDev Q&A number 10, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And today our guest is Nicky B, because I don't want to
What's
bother
up, everyone?
pronouncing your surname. Boccuzzi?
No, I appreciate it. It's cool. Yeah, that was actually really good.
Okay, yeah. Okay, go on.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Nathan. I've watched a few streams, and I'm actually super humbled that you didn't ask me to be on. So thank you.
No problem. It seems like we have completely different people in chat, which is what I expected, considering we're streaming now at a completely different time in the day. It was purely because we couldn't really have anyone doing the normal time, so I thought rather than cancelling the stream this week, we'd adjust and go earlier in the day. And I see Jason Story in chat. And we have menu docs here as well, so I see two familiar faces. Have we got any questions already, or we can start with I have some questions for Nicky to answer anyway. I can answer it too, but the first question I think we should discuss, because someone in your server wanted this, was why do you like Unity, and what makes you use that engine over the others? So go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, so that was from Sam in my Discord server, and to answer that, I found Unity not too long after I actually got into coding itself, and I was already learning like JavaScript and Ruby, and it was just a pretty smooth transition going from those two languages into C Sharp. So that was like the biggest entry point for me, because like C++ still is kind of this like crazy, like the compilation, everything that goes into C++ is beyond my level of expertise. So it was just like really easy for me to get into it. And then like once I started using it more, I actually ended up starting to like how experimental some of the different parts of Unity can be. Like there's so much going on at all times and so many things changing that it keeps it interesting. So like that's my biggest answer, is that C# is like number one, and number two is how it evolves over time. I think that's like super interesting.
Yeah, how they're adding preview packages all the time, and I know that annoys people who are trying to make games in production, and they're annoyed about things being very well. See, the thing is, when something's in preview, they are definitely telling you this isn't designed for production yet. But sometimes some of the things they add are so useful that you want to use it now that it's there. But at the same time, it might be buggy or not feature complete or whatever. But have you tried any other engines then? Have you actually tried using?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely tried Unreal back in like this is a couple years ago now, and like I think that their like monthly free assets are awesome. Like I don't think any other places do that, but yeah, I tried it, and then it was such a big barrier for me, which was the C++ that just stopped me from even progressing. And honestly, like I just got used to the interface in Unity that I didn't really see a point in going back.
Yeah, I've tried Unreal and I've tried Godot or Godot. I think it's Godot. I always have this dilemma. And then I originally started with Game Maker Studio or Game Maker Studio 2. I think I've tried both, and they were definitely good because they got me more interested. But then I started learning their GD script, I think it's called, or GM script. I can't remember exactly. And
Yeah.
then I realized, wait, but if I want to make 3D games, I need to use a different engine, and those other engines don't use this language. So then I started like learning C# for it, and once I started using Unity, I of course didn't want to just ignore the other engines. I wanted to give them a go, and I tried them and then never got into it. I wasn't like scared of the C++. I just found it really hard to use because for some reason the compile times in Unreal were really long, and then the IntelliSense was broken, and I just had so many issues. I thought maybe I can fix it, but it would take me so much more time. I'll just go back to Unity where I'm happy. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like those barriers to entry can really push people off from actually continuing to get into it. So at least like with Unity, you didn't have that issue and you just kept going.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to get into things, and then obviously you can still go really advanced. It doesn't mean it's a beginner's like baby game engine or anything. It's still fully feature complete, and you can do whatever. Just at the same time, it also is a lot friendlier to beginners.
Totally.
Horses for courses, as they say. Use the tool that gets the job done. I mean, yeah, it's true. If you're using Unity and it's doing everything you need and you're fine with it, then why? Like, sure, you can check other engines out because maybe they do have something. If you see a feature that maybe Unity doesn't have, then you might want to use the other engine. But I think, especially nowadays, Unity is on par, if not ahead, on features. Because I remember it was only the last few years where they added like a shader editor, and they're still adding a lot of things that you'd expect in the game engine. Like the new input system is just a lot better. When I used Unreal, that was one thing I liked, was the input. Like how setting it all up was really just easy for like rebinding, especially. The old Unity input is not great, but they basically got everything.
I actually
now.
haven't checked out the new one yet, so I'm pretty excited to. I know there's a couple channels that have been covering it, that just like getting into how to use it with like characters and everything. So I'm excited to give it a shot. But I completely agree with that. Yeah, like some of the issues that I had with Unreal personally were like, one, like the actual C++, and then two, just like finding the interface. Or like navigating the interface, it just was a little too confusing for me. Which is funny because like I feel like Unity has its own set of issues when it comes to the interface, but I don't know. I think there's like enough content out there, at least on YouTube. And I know you put out a GameDev.tv course a few weeks ago. They were like my number one gateway into it. So like I took a couple of their courses and I never looked back really.
Yeah, funnily enough, when I started learning Unity, I actually took a few of their courses, so it's gone full cycle now. But
exactly.
Yeah, it's weird to think that. But as well with Unity, I don't know how long people are going to call it the new input system, because it's the newer input system, but it's been out for a bit now. Maybe everyone will just call it the new input system forever. But yeah, what else?
Or the old one would be like the legacy input system or something. Yeah,
there'll be a point when they change what they call it, or maybe they do just call it the input system, and the community calls it the new input system. But yeah, I think that's enough about the engines. I'm sure we'll be talking plenty more about Unity as the stream goes on. Jason said, yeah, the amount of supported platforms is what makes Unity the most friendly engine at first. Yeah, if you're trying to launch a game, I only have really a Windows PC and an Android phone. Pretty much the only devices I have. And I once I've taken part in a few game jams, and I wanted to build for Mac, and I just built for Mac and it worked. Like the fact you can just switch that, and made an app and it worked on my phone. So I just switched it for iOS, and deploying to iOS is another issue. That's not a Unity problem. It's just getting stuff onto the App Store is a massive pain. Google Play is not anywhere near as bad. But,
I'm actually I'm personally an app developer like full time, so I'm used to dealing with both Apple and Google, and the process of getting our app onto the App Store is a lot harder for Apple than it is on Google.
Yeah, when I was messing once, made a little game for I'll get it on my phone. I want it on the App Store, onto Google Play even, and it was pretty easy, and it didn't take very long. I know there's a bit of like the review process, but the process of me getting it on there was easy. And then for Apple, it was a lot more difficult, and it took a lot longer, but eventually we got there, so it's all good. I don't want to have to do it again, but I know at some point I will, so I'm dreading that day. My question is, how are you? For both of us, I guess. I mean, having a good day, a good morning for you.
Yeah, all good here.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks for asking.
But starting stream at 12 meant that like I wasn't hungry enough for lunch, but by the time we end, it's going to be 2 p.m. for me, so I'll have a late lunch, and then I'm eating later at like 5 because we've got something fun coming up later, but I'll just skip over that. I've got some more questions, so let's go with a very good question that I often get asked, which is very different per person, but yeah, how do you balance your kind of life, YouTube, job, game dev balance, the balance of everything?
Sure. That's a very difficult question to answer because like I said before, like I do have a full-time gig, and that does take up majority of my time. And then like putting the time into actually making each video is like 40 or more hours in total. So like the biggest like the most helpful thing is that I don't really set strict dates for when I'm going to post a new video. I think if I did, I'd be like super stressed. But it's kind of like the whole point of my channel was that I'd have like references to look back on when I'm making my own game, which I plan to do in the future when I feel like I'm competent enough with the stuff that I need to know. And like if I ever forgotten anything, I could look back on my own videos, because obviously if I was able to make the video, I understand something enough to teach it. And then I'll know, like just by watching my own video, that I can relearn it. So I think like finding the balance, it's really difficult, but it's more that there is no pressure for me to actually release anything until I've learned anything enough to teach it. So there isn't really anything like pushing me to release something within like a week span or anything, you know?
Are you thinking of sticking with the current job you're doing, app development, or do you want to go into games development or like game app development, mobile? Like what is it you're trying to work towards?
Cool. Yeah. So like, I love my job really. Like, so yeah, I do want to keep it. And I think that at a point in my life, I actually had 3 jobs at the same time. I was a fitness instructor. I had 2 other software engineering jobs. And I think that was like when I was the most happiest, when I was able to do different things pretty much every day. And I think that variety, like it's not a really stable thing to do in terms of like, none of them were full-time gigs. So I didn't really have like health insurance and stuff. That's an issue for the United States. But like, I think being able to vary what you do every day keeps your mind like working and like trying new things more frequently than just staying in a stagnant single job. Again, that's not like the most reliable or stable career path, but I do want to keep this app job because it balances me out in terms of I'm not only doing game development and I'm not only doing app development.
Yeah, so you're keeping the game development as like a side hobby more so, and then I mean
who knows what happens. Like this my YouTube channel's like been more successful than I ever expected it to be, so like I can't say in the future that things don't change, but you know, I really do love my job right now.
Yeah, I mean, like it is good to have that balance, because especially like even if you love game dev and people think like, oh, working in game dev must be a dream because you're making games, but at the same time it doesn't stop you getting burnt out if it's the only thing you're doing. So it is good to have that balance. Well, I don't spend much time doing app stuff, but I spend a bit of time doing web dev as well, and I like that it balances it out. I do for the most part enjoy game dev more, but like I said, having the balance is good. If I only did game dev, I have had periods of time where I've done that and I get bored. Even though I like what I'm doing, it still can just really burn you out.
It becomes a job, you know? And like doing anything, even if it's your favorite thing in the world, eventually I think people might get tired of doing the same thing too much.
Yeah. So are you like, for the hobby, obviously you're doing the channel, but are you also working on a game that you plan on releasing, or is that something in the future?
That's in the future. So like I actually started the channel because I realized that when I was working on a game, that I really didn't have an audience. So I started out by like being like, I'm gonna make this game, and I had an idea of what I wanted it to be, and like I made a trailer for it and I released it, and like literally nobody saw it. So I was like, well, how do I build up an audience that when the time comes that I actually have something to share, you know, it like there will be people there who actually might care. And my answer, like honestly, I just YouTubed just like how to build an audience, and the answer really was like the most popular YouTube channels are like how to, and like people who answer questions. So I had questions of how to do things in Unity, and some of the answers weren't there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do research on this. I'll make videos on it, and then hopefully people are interested. And so far, like it's been pretty good. Of people are interested in the stuff that I also wanted to learn. So I'm building this audience of just by making videos I want on questions I want answered anyway.
Yeah, I feel like that's how like pretty much all tutorial channels get going. When you said the whole how-to thing, I just had like flashbacks to typing out my video titles. I'm pretty sure like 90% of my videos are how to do something, and It makes sense because yeah, a lot of the videos as well, just like you said, will be something you might not know or you want to know. You learn it, and then you're at the point where you're like, I want to teach this to people too. And that's what I've done with quite a lot of the videos on the channel, pretty much all of them. Sometimes they're just suggestions, like it's something I wasn't going to do a tutorial on, but loads of people wanted it, so I thought, oh, well, I'll teach it. But yeah, a lot of the time it's just stuff that I've learnt. I might not have any ideas for a video this week, and then I might be messing in my own project, and then just an idea sparks like, oh, that's something I learned this week, I'm going to teach people. And that was how the multiplayer stuff started, which is like now the biggest thing on the channel.
That's awesome.
I just thought like, I want to do some multiplayer stuff, and there's not many tutorials on multiplayer in Unity, so I learned it, and I was like, here's some multiplayer tutorials, and people wanted it apparently, so yeah, that's how that took off.
You find your niche, you know?
Yeah, that is. We had a niche of Discord bot coding at a point. Like I'd learned how to code Discord bots, did it for a bit, and then that blew up, but then it very quickly died out as well, and I got burnt out from that because there's not like Unity or game dev software engineering is just such a big thing that if I'm focusing my entire content to just be Discord bots like I did for a bit, I don't know, I got a bit burnt out from it. I know there is obviously a lot you can do with them. There's some very cool Discord bots, but at the same time, I just didn't want to do it just because people were wanting it, because there was also people wanting the other content that I also wanted to do. And usually if you as the creator are happy and enjoy what you're making, it'll be better. So yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, and like I guess like at a certain point you'd be pivoting your channel's like focus from game dev to like Discord, and I don't know if you would have wanted to do that.
Yeah, I started with Unity, just showing off stuff I would be making. Then people wanted tutorials, and I thought, hey, I might try this. Did Unity tutorials, yeah, pivoted, did a bit of Discord bot stuff, and then went back, and then I think I've done Unity since, and I've not got burnt out yet. I think I did some website stuff for a little bit, but it never took off, and I didn't enjoy it as much. So yeah, I think we're gonna keep the channel mainly Unity focused, at least for the foreseeable future. There's so much stuff I've covered, and so much stuff to cover still. So
exactly, that's what I was gonna say. Is like there's just always this, and that's one of the beauties of like there are so many preview packages that you could just check out, and you know, like the asset source huge if you ever wanted to check out some of the assets and do videos on that.
Yeah, like with the preview packages, I've done videos recently on like the new UI stuff they're coming out with, localization. I think I did like a video or two really simple animation rigging things, because I think all your videos are animation focused. That's something I've noticed. Do you plan on that so still being your focus, or are you planning on other things to branch out to?
I mean, I'm open to anything. Right now it's mostly my focus because it's like I'm not done learning it myself. There's still plenty that I need to know, and like when I learn something, I try to get as much into it as possible and learn as much about it as possible, so that I could share that with everyone. So I mean, I would say like making these videos kind of slows down the process of learning what I want to know for the game that I want to make, but at the same time it's like if I know it so well that I can teach it, then I wouldn't consider myself an expert in anything about Unity, but like I know it enough that when the time comes to actually make the game, I'll be able to do it.
Yeah, so is there something then, like maybe this week or recently, that you've learned in Unity, like something new that you may not have known before this week, or you know, you pick the time frame?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my next video comes out on Sunday, and it's just about like animation in general in Unity, like the animation tab. I didn't really know much about curves before, and like what a tangent was and stuff like that. And just by planning to make that video and doing the research, like there's just a bunch of different settings in there that I didn't know existed. And now like I have a full video on it that I hope helps other people, but at least I know this stuff too. So like when, again, in the future, I'll be able to use it.
Yeah, I don't think there are many channels focused entirely on animation. I can't really think of any. I know like Andre from Miximo does a lot of cool stuff, and I'm sure like obviously everyone uses the animator for something, but I don't think there's anyone focusing on it because it's very in-depth. I'm sure you know that better than me, because I mean, yeah, I use it a lot, but I use it very simply, not for anything too complicated. So yeah, I mean, maybe I'll check them out if I'm ever looking for animation advice or help.
Hey man, I appreciate it. Yeah, you could always just DM me too. But yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned Mix and Jam, because that's like the main channel that got me to make this my own YouTube channel. Is he always mentioned this thing called Miximo, and I was like, what is this Miximo that he's talking about?
Yeah.
And like, how is he making all these animations? So I just decided to look it up myself, and that's when I fell down the rabbit hole of like getting it. Pretty much, I was trying to basically replicate one of the videos that he did, and I ended up being able to. And I was like, he talks a lot about it, but I didn't really find any thorough tutorials on how to like go from Miximo into Unity. So that was like my first tutorial video was exporting from Miximo into Unity.
Yeah, I've used Miximo. It was probably Andre from Mix and Jam that I also saw that used Miximo when I first heard about it, and I only use it because I'm not an animator or modeler. So when I'm doing a video, normally I'll just use capsules and stuff. But if I'm trying to actually make the video look a little bit more visually interesting, I'll use that. And my most recent video that I did like this Monday, I think, was about animation, but with mirror networking at the same time. So like, if you go into the walking state, then like the other players need to see that too. So I kind of showed how to mix them both. Now, I didn't go much into the animation side, apart from like this client has authority over this player. So if you call set float or whatever animation parameter you trigger, that will then get synced over the network, so both players see you walking. And yeah, it's really easy to set up, and it's pretty cool. It adds a lot to the game, because all the mirror stuff I've done so far has no animation. It's just like capsules walking around and maybe rotating so you can tell which way they're facing. But having like the humanoid from Miximo with some walking animation makes it feel a lot better. So yeah,
I gotta check out that video, honestly. That's super interesting to me.
Well, I mean, there it is. It's the most recent one if you want to check it out. What else do we have? So yeah, this is a good one. I think we've only spoken about it once or twice on the channel, but what was your greatest game dev failure or like biggest mistake you've made so far, if you have any in mind? And what have you learned from it?
Sure. I mean, I would say like thinking that just releasing this dream game that I had in mind, like would actually, like there's just so many game devs these days, like, and that's a good thing. I think like there being such a market for people who want to make games makes, that there will be some people who like a single developer who make an awesome game, and that's exciting. But at the same time, it's such a overly saturated market that thinking that I could like make this thing and release it and it would do amazing it's just unrealistic. So I think like my biggest mistake was thinking that my idea was like more special than anyone else's, because it's not. And that's okay, that's totally fine, but that's actually my biggest game dev mistake, is not being realistic about like actually making a game. It's like you need to market your game at some point, and that's a whole different side of game dev that like I don't think too many people think about until you're at the point where like you have this game or like your game ready to go, and then it's like, okay, well, how do I get this in front of people?
Yeah, you'll see this indie developer with a really successful title, but you shouldn't fall into the trap of that means anyone that's an indie dev can make a successful title. I mean, it means it's possible for sure. Like, it's proof that it's possible, so it's inspiring, but also you shouldn't, like, it can hurt you if you think like just because I'm trying means it will be successful. Like, trying is a really important part, but there's so many other parts too, like I said, marketing. And also, if you are a solo dev, chances are you're not good at everything. You might be good at programming or art or animation or whatever, and you might be okay at the other things too. But if you want to have a successful game, you have to play to your strengths and or get other people on board with you that fill in the other gaps. Because if everyone thinks of Undertale as one of the best examples of like, it wasn't a solo game. Like, I think the game design was solo, but the music was outsourced and a few other little things. But obviously he played to the strengths. It's a very simple game. What year did it come out in? Like, for its time, it's just a simple 2D, I don't know what you call that genre of game. It's not a platformer at all. It's just a 2D exploration game, story game,
yeah,
I guess.
I don't really know. It's like a narrative focus.
Yeah.
It's so interesting too that one is specifically like, I feel like it has its own genre.
Yeah. I don't know quite what people would call it, but yeah, like Undertale was successful, which inspired probably a lot of people to get into game dev who thought like, wow, that person on their own did this and was successful. So it's always good to inspire people, but they should also be aware, like, it's not guaranteed success. So yeah.
Of course, yeah. Like Toby Fox is literally 1 in a million.
Yeah. And then I guess my biggest mistake that I've spoken about before, I'll just briefly mention, was probably taking too long to use source control when I started, or version control, source control, whatever. Because, yeah, I would have projects where I never did the thing where I take my project, I need to back it up, so I just duplicate the folder and then like backup 1, backup 2, backup 3. But I think it was even worse. I just didn't back up at all. So on my first Unity projects, they just exist. No repository, no backups. And if you ever want to work on a new feature and then maybe you're a bit unsure if it's going to break other things, or you might not want it, so you might want to revert, it's just a much bigger hassle. So yeah, once I got into source control, I think pretty much every project I've made since then is on my Git somewhere. And yeah, that's something I would have told myself, like, when you start, get into source control. It looks boring, it looks messy, but do it, because it's very useful.
Oh, it's the most helpful thing. It's like you need to do it, I would say.
Yeah. What else? If you could tell your younger self then one thing about game dev, what would it be? Because you said you got into game dev like quite recently. Like how many years ago was it?
Like 1.
1, yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty new to this still.
Were you looking at starting it 2 years ago? Like, were you ever looking at it?
Honestly, no, not really. I was a fitness instructor for like the first half of my 20s. And I thought that I was going to do that for longer than I actually ended up doing it for. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? I have like a business degree from college or university, and my fiance's in finance, and I didn't really want to do that. So I found a coding boot camp, and that's how I learned to code. At least one of the few things. I have a video on my channel about how I actually learned, like how I got to the point I'm at now. But yeah, like game dev came later than anything. I was like, okay, I need a stable career, and obviously software engineering is one that's like kind of future proof. So that's kind of how I got here.
But like, was that the reason you chose software development over other stable careers? Was it just that like you saw it was stable, or were you interested in the tech side of things? And
I just love it. I gave it a shot by going through some small free course, like an MIT online course, and I fell in love with it. Really, it became a passion of mine, where it's like I was spending most of my free time doing it when I wasn't actually doing my real job at the time. And I was like, how do I do this professionally without having to go back to university for it? And a friend of mine recommended that I do this coding boot camp. I went through it, and it kind of set me up with like the fundamentals of what I needed to know to get a job. And like 6 months later or so, I had something that was paying me money.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite like, I think most of the people I've spoken to that actually do this game dev stuff or software development professionally, we'll stick to game dev. I think most people got into it from like playing games and then wanting to make games. I think your like route at getting to here was a bit more interesting, we'd say. Like fitness instructor to let's get a stable job and go into a boot camp, and then here we are. Like, yeah.
I mean, I definitely play games. Like that's one of the main reasons I'm in game dev too, is because I love video games. But I think the route that actually brought me here has very little to do with that specifically.
Yeah. So did you learn software development for the job and then think, now I know software development, this is transferable to game development, I'll give that a go too on the side? Is that...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When I was in the boot camp, they had me make a JavaScript game using like an HTML canvas, and that I was under a pretty strict time limit, so it basically was a game jam. I just didn't realize it at the time. I had like a week to make it, and I really like the idea. I actually want to remake it in the future, but like that was my first taste into game development, was some JavaScript game that I ended up putting on like my resume.
How was it going from a JavaScript canvas to Unity?
Oh, no, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing alike.
Yeah, I remember like once I've really done nothing in JavaScript with like game stuff in the canvas, but I think once I tried and I was doing some like bounding box collision stuff and just googling the math behind it and like, oh yeah, I've made Pong or something because now the ball hits the things. And yeah, I think I've done it like once very briefly, but yeah, game dev in a game engine, yeah, it's not like it's easy just because a lot of stuff's already there for you. It's obviously easier than making an entire game engine, but it's because your mind is now focused on making the game, not making the physics, for example, like, or that kind of stuff. I know some
things just work.
Yeah, like the things that you expect in pretty much every game to behave the same just work. So you open up Unity with a game idea in mind, not having to think, oh, but I need to make the collisions and the physics and the audio all work to this hardware and deploy onto this device. That's the thing with Unity as well, like deploying to any device. You just make your game and it pretty much just works on every device. Sure, there's some maybe optimizations or settings tweaks, but it's basically nothing, just to get stuff deployed to different devices. So yeah, it's just really beginner friendly in that sense, and still very friendly for people even that aren't beginners. You mentioned game jams. Have you taken part in any? I know you said that was like kind of a game jam, but not really. But have you actually taken part in any proper game jams?
Yeah, I did one at so the whole like reason I was able to get into YouTube was because like when the quarantine started happening around the world and specifically in New York here, I like my fitness job, which I was still doing, like while having my apps job. So I was balancing two jobs. I was doing the fitness job and I was doing the apps job. The fitness job closed down because like obviously you can't, like everything closed. So I was able to still do my work from home apps job, but fitness kind of took a back seat, and it's like I'm just waiting for it to open up after the vaccine or whatever comes out. But like that opened up a lot of free time, and then I was like, okay, I'll like make a game or something in my free time, and that's how I got down the rabbit hole of, well, then I started watching Jam, and I found Miximo and decided to make the YouTube channel. But at the beginning of quarantine, I first took part in the Stay Safe Jam, which was like the whole point is that we would stay inside and not go outside for a weekend. And I did my first video on the channel of just like basically a little documentary or like a devlog of how I like unsuccessfully took part in that game jam and like how far I got and like the code I put into it and all that stuff. So that's like my first video that I ever made, was just taking part in the game jam. And then I also tried to do the Mix and Game Jam I think it was last weekend.
Yeah, it's recently.
Yep. That didn't go so hot. Like I just fumbled with the ideas, and I think that's part of how game jams just go, is like if you can't come up with a good idea, then it's either you like try to push through, or for me it's like, well, if I have this idea that I'm not too fond of, I think my time is honestly personally better fit just to work on my next video for the channel. So after like the Friday, I gave it my all. Like I was up pretty late trying to figure stuff out, and I was like, this isn't happening. And then for the rest of the weekend, I just tried to finish up my next video.
Yeah, that's the thing. Game jams are strange because I had Jabril on the stream like a couple weeks ago, and I thought he liked game jams, but one of his things was saying, I hate game jams. Like he really dislikes them, and honestly, I can't remember the exact reasons why. I'm trying to think. I've done 3 game jams. I might be mistaken, but I think 3, and I want to do more, but I either realize too soon to the date when they're on, and I'm like, oh, I can't be ready for this, or I'm just busy. But there's so many going on. I try and take part. The ones I look out for is like the Ludum Dare jams, and then I'm sure Brecky's probably isn't doing his jams anymore, but I did do 1 or 2 of Brecky's game jams. Yeah, I think so. The first jam I did was I had a really bad topic or genre. It was the theme. What was it, like incompatible genres or something? So the whole point of the game was like just make it weird. Like, so I picked like card games, which are known for being slow and methodical, and bullet hells, which are known for being fast paced and tons of stuff at once. And so I made a game where your character moves by playing cards to dodge stuff like bullet hell style that's all coming at you. So it was just a case of like clicking where your cards are in your deck at the bottom and just playing them like spam really fast. And yeah, it was fun. I had fun with that as my first game jam.
That's impressive, honestly. Like that seems super like combining genres is actually the mix and jam one too. But like to combine genres that aren't supposed to go together seems
Yeah.
even harder.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people interpreted it differently, and they took like, rather than genres like actual gameplay genres, they picked a genre, and then maybe they took, I don't know, zombies and then like flowers or something, right? Just two things that don't really go together, and they made the theme more like that. So it was a bit vague. I know there were other people. I wasn't the only person who took two genres and made my life hard by trying to make them work together, but it was fun. And that's the best thing, again, like with Unity or games, that you can just hit build and just send it to your friends, and now they're playing a game, and it was, yeah, pretty good fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, as well, like, that was my first game jam. I was a beginner, and it went pretty well. But then, as I was more experienced in a recent game jam, it didn't go as well. In the global game jam, back in January, just before lockdown, I was in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and the university they were doing a game jam. It's one of the locations where they were doing the game jam, because it's in person for the global game jam, and we had a team of, was it 4 people? I think it was 4 people. And maybe that was the reason. It was because, as well as making the game, you've got to manage the team and split up the tasks. It was a lot more of that, because all the other game jams I've done were solo, so I could manage my own time and just do it all myself. So yeah, we did the game jam, and I think maybe the idea was a bit ambitious, and we didn't make it in time, I think, was the problem. Scope is the best thing you learn.
It gets you.
Scope is the thing you learn. Game jams are good because, in my case, like, if I work on a personal project, it just never ends because I'm just experimenting and learning and messing around. But game jams are the time when I'm like, all right, I got 2 days for this, actually finish the project and get it released. So it is good.
Yeah,
I like game jams. Do you like game jams?
I do.
Yeah.
I was actually going to say, like, one of the reasons that he might have not liked them was because, like, I feel like there's this pressure, like, that's, like, once you are given the theme of the jam, if it's not already given, you're, like, trying to think of something as fast as you can so that you can actually get started on the project. And it's like that, the countdown of when it's actually due is, like, always in the back of your head. So if you're not, like, ready for that pressure, or if you're, like, already having a rough week or something, then it might be a little too much for you to handle.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some people who want to do a game jam, and then as soon as they hear the theme, they just don't. They just probably think, maybe this topic, like, I don't think I've ever started a game jam and given up. I've always gone to the end, but I think sometimes I won't take part in a game jam and I see a topic that some people have done, and I'm like, I really think I missed out. And you could always time yourself and, do the jam even though you're not actually taking part in it. You could say, like, oh, I'll spend these 2 days doing that theme even though it's a week later or whatever, just to experience it. Because the only reason why you'd have to do it at the same time is for the like community feel of everyone's posting the progress and stuff at the same time, and also if you want to enter it into the competition. But apart from that, you can still do it to give yourself practice. Like, these 2 days, I'm gonna go into a random theme generator, hit random, and just make a game. So yeah, I don't know, game jams.
Yeah, you also see that on some channels. Like, they'll do, I think it was Zyger who actually took part in, like, a little mini game jam between, like, her and a few other YouTubers. So it's like, you don't really have to abide by, like, the actual itch.io game jams are, like, the only game jams you can do. You can do one by yourself. And I think, like, Danny posts, like, I made this thing in, like, 7 days or whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see those YouTube videos.
I think the thing with Zygo was this guy called Mrs. I think that's his YouTube channel name. I looked up the other day. I've seen his stuff before. And yeah, he usually grabs some people, and rather than picking a theme, they pick, like, an asset pack, if that's the one you're thinking of. And then with that asset pack, you just try and make a game. And everyone makes different games with that asset pack. It's just how you interpret the stuff you're given. And yeah, it's an interesting concept. It's a bit different to what a game jam normally is, but it's the same concept of a short amount of time to make something with limits. It's all about the limits. But that limit isn't the theme, it's the assets you have to use. So yeah, but it's pretty cool what you can make with it. I saw Roman Papush did one a while ago on the same channel, and they had some, like, space interior assets or something. And the fact that with those exact same assets, like, Roman made a 3D game even though everyone else made 2D games, because he took the 2D sprites for the 2D game, but like put it onto 3D models as the texture. And so
That's pretty sweet.
like, yeah, it was pretty cool. The imagination plays an important part there.
Sure.
Yeah. So less of a dev question, but we get this sometimes, which is, what games are you playing at the moment? Anything interesting? Or
Yes, I mean, I'm pretty far behind in terms of actually playing games. I'm sure you understand that like making videos takes a lot of time. But when I do play, my friends and I always play Smash, like Smash Bros. So like that's always in the back burner. But I've been trying to work through The Last of Us 2, and that's been taking a lot longer than I expected it to, because like the first one's one of my favorite games I've ever played. But it's just more of like the free time necessary to play that is a little hard to come by these days. But that's like the main one for me. And then Hades is actually like Super Giant Games, like my most inspirational like game dev team. So like when that came to Switch, I picked it up, and I must have like 20 to 30 hours into it at least.
yeah, I could open my Steam and check. I don't know if I have 20 hours on that game, but yeah, Hades, when it came out, I saw it and I thought, hey, it looks alright. I'll try it because it's relatively cheap on Steam. And then I was like, damn, this has a lot of replayability. And yeah, I played quite a few roguelikes. My kind of one of my favorite genres, not my absolute favorite, but like Risk of Rain 2, Enter the Gungeon, Wizard of Legend. I think I have quite a few of them. It's just because it doesn't take much to get into them. You just open it up, run in, and have a go. It doesn't matter if you last 5 minutes or an hour or whatever. Sometimes I mean, Hades runs never last an hour because they have an end. That's one of the difference. It's not an endless game, but at the same time, there's endless like replayability, pretty much. Just going for the different builds with the different gods and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. And being on this, like, I know you were saying you have it on Steam, but being on the Switch, like being able to just like hit the power button and you just can turn it off for a little while and then come back and you're exactly where you started. It's really helpful. And like, if you're ever under some time constraints, it's really nice to have that option.
Yeah, I only use PC at the moment really for playing games. I had consoles, like I had the first Xbox, and like I had a Nintendo DS Lite, and then I got a Nintendo Wii, and after Nintendo Wii I got a PC, and I never played console since. And I'm not even like against playing on consoles, but the only one I even have like had interest in is the Switch. Like I don't really care about Xbox or PlayStation, but the Switch does look pretty cool. But I know if I bought it, I just wouldn't use it right now. The only reason I can see of me using it is to test games on it if I was releasing. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of PC games are getting Switch ports, especially games that have been out for a while that are pretty popular. I think like Rocket League got a port to Switch at some point.
If you ever want to play Rocket League, I'm always down. It's like one of my favorite games that I've ever played.
I used to play it a lot, and then there was like a year or two. It's been out for ages now, hasn't it? There was like a year or two where I didn't play, and then one of my friends was like, hey Nathan, you have Rocket League, right? And then we played for a bit, and yeah, I still enjoy it. I'm not like amazing, but yeah, I mean, sure. If I ever feel like playing it, then I know who to go to.
There you go.
All right. What else? So, obviously, you don't do game dev as your like main thing, but is it? Slipping up my words. When you do the game dev stuff, is it pretty much all on your own, or do you have anyone else that you kind of like collaborate with at all when working on projects or anything?
It's really just me, honestly. None of my best friends are like into game dev itself. Like the reason I got into programming itself was because one of my friends recommended it to me. So like I was looking for a new career, and he was like, "You should check out." He was just graduating from university with a computer science degree, and he's like, "You should check out programming. It's really fun." And I was like, "Okay," but he's like only like you said yourself, you check out web dev every now and again, and that's what he does. Is he's just all on web. So he's not too interested in game dev, and I wish he was, but it's just the way it is. It's just me.
So then, for your job, do you work on a big team or a small team, or?
It depends what you mean by it. It's bigger than me. It's more than one person, but it's not like for like as large as the apps that I work on are. It's a pretty small team. It's like 8 to 10 people.
What kind of like apps are they? I don't know how much I can ask her, but.
No, it's fine. Yeah. It's like a sports app, like similar to ESPN, but it's not ESPN. So that's as much as I'll say there. But it basically covers all of the same topics as ESPN does.
Okay. I mean, the only apps I've ever released have been like from Unity. I think I might have made like a Xamarin app before, and I probably will be doing it again. But yeah, I don't stick only to C#, but yeah, most of the stuff I do is C#. I've dabbled in Python at school, but only because I had to do it at school, and then JavaScript a bit, and TypeScript a bit, which is basically JavaScript, but not.
It's basically JavaScript. I was going to say, though, that I work exclusively with JavaScript pretty much every day. So, like, doing the C#, it was a pretty smooth transition. There's just a few differences that you have to pick up.
Yeah, like types.
And there's definitely still stuff to learn, but exactly. And when it comes to Python, I think, like, that's one of the more interesting things just because of machine learning. Like, I feel like that's the main language to go to when you want to pick that stuff up.
Yeah, one of the things I never got, I'm sure someone could tell me, but like, why is Python like the leading thing in machine learning when machine learning is all about like, isn't it really expensive calculations and performance when Python's known for being quite poor in performance? Like, wouldn't you expect the more performant languages for being better at machine learning? That's my look on it. I don't know.
Very similar question. I'm not too sure why it's like the one that people go to, or like what makes it more efficient than other ones, but
maybe just the libraries that exist. I don't know.
It's possible.
Yeah, so that was about like teams and working on stuff. So yeah, I'm sure we've already kind of discussed this already, but obviously use source control. Because you went into Unity after working in software development, right? So presumably you started Unity with already knowing about source control.
Yeah. I use GitHub pretty much every day. So
yeah,
it's how we use source control for my job, and it was pretty easy just to use it for Unity too.
Yeah, because my problem was the first area I got into of software development was pretty much game development. So I didn't know about source control at that time. So that's why my oldest Unity projects don't have any source control. As for web, when I started doing web stuff, I'd already done game and already knew about source control, so that's all fine. I guess if you started in a job and doing a boot camp, that's probably one of the first things they try and shove down your throat is source control, I imagine. So
it actually was. Yeah. It's pretty funny you say that.
But because I was like self-teaching all this stuff off the internet, sure, some people mentioned source control, but they never shoved it down my throat, and I was just like, it can't be that important. And then I realized, oh no, it is. I guess in tutorials, you know, when you're watching a tutorial, you don't want to be told to use source control. It's like, I know, just like get on with the video. This isn't a video about source control, but it is definitely important. I use it now for like all my videos as well, so that people can just go in and get the projects that I do for my videos. For pretty much every video, I try and remember to do it. Sometimes I might forget.
I think I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Do you do it right now? Do you say?
No, I think I'm going to start doing the same of like giving the option. I've actually been considering like at a certain milestone setting up like a Patreon account, but I don't know. We're not there yet.
Yeah. I think I've had Patreon pretty much since the start, and it's just kind of been there. And you know, originally I had it so we had small enough of a community so that the benefits I could give would be like me helping someone out privately. But then as you get to this many people, I can't help that many people out privately. So I had to remove that like tier and just make it, you know, more of a shout out kind of thing and just thanking people. For a bit, we also did have it so that if you were a Patreon, you could access the projects. But it was bad for people and it was bad for me because they had to pay and then I had to... I couldn't use a GitHub for that. It wouldn't really work because it's either public or private, and I'd have to then invite them to the team, and then it just wouldn't make sense. And then I tried using like some Google Drive or Dropbox thing to do it, and that was just painful for me to have to remember to go do that. So I was just like, nah, just every video's on public GitHub. There we go. And I think
that's definitely an option.
Yeah. I swear I was just gonna say or post something else, and I completely blanked on what it was I was gonna do. Oh well, we can keep going. Which game devs do you look up to? And I'm guessing, obviously, Mix and Jam, Andre is probably one of those. But are there any others?
I mean, I think that anybody who does this and like is on YouTube is somebody that I look up to. Like nobody is an expert at everything, and I always say anybody who says that they are wrong. So like everybody who has like their own specialty is somebody that I would look up to and try to learn from. That's like the beauty of YouTube in general. It's like if you have a question, it can be answered. But like if I'm to name specifics, actually, I think like my channel's most similar to this guy DevDuck. He's like one of the other guys that I was watching. I was like, yeah, I could probably make videos that's similar to him, where it's like well structured, and he just presents himself and like his content in like a very calm manner, and like that's kind of who I think was like the other inspiration for me actually getting into this.
Yeah, like I think when I started, like I know all the people you've mentioned. I'm just thinking when I started though, obviously Brackeys was like the first that ever you see when you how to make a game in Unity, and like that was the start.
Yeah,
And then
yeah, for sure.
I think Andre started a little bit later. I can't remember when he started, but it was definitely a bit later than when I started, because I started back in 2017, I think. And I remember Blackform Prod, Saiku Sam. Before Sam worked at Unity, I remember he still does his own channel, but a bit less now.
Yeah, I think that just happens when you start working there. Is like
Yeah,
you have to put your own channel on the back burner.
yeah,
But it's funny you mentioned Blackthorn Prod. He also is definitely somebody that like I watched for I think like a year before I started myself. So he's definitely one of the guys that I was like, oh, that's like I love all the stuff he puts out, and I could probably do something similar.
yeah. Someone said in chat, Sebastian Log. Yeah, I've watched. I first found out about him through Brackeys, because I think they were either friends or they'd collabed before or something on some videos. And then I realized he used to do more tutorial like videos, and now he does more kind of theory videos and like experimentation things, which are cool too. But I used to find some of his old tutorials really useful. It's how I learned to actually like rig a character in Blender and stuff, which was useful. I mean, now I just use Miximo for most of the things I do. But if I'm ever making an actual game where I need custom animations and I'm not like, and custom models where I'm not just going to take a Miximo thing, then I know how to do it. I'll probably have to watch the video again to refresh myself on that. But yeah, I think I could just keep talking about more and more YouTubers. But I think those were the main
Same.
ones. Those are the main ones when I started that got me interested in it all. There's probably others I've forgotten now, but yeah. What else? How do you manage scope? So that can obviously be about game jams, or just could be about your job or hobby or what. Scope is just very general, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll associate it more with like the game dev stuff. Is
Yeah,
when like I said, I first started out just trying to make my own game. It was just like supposed to be this VR game, which I think was like I thought was a pretty good idea, because VR a couple of years ago, or not a couple of years ago, but like at the beginning of 2020 was like it's still fairly new. I think like just in general, VR is still taking off, which it has been taking off for like the past 7 years or so, or however long it's been. But I think that's just like a nice little niche that you can still get into, and like that in itself of making a VR game is like beyond my personal scope at the start. So I would say you get better at managing scope over time, and you realize that like maybe your own skills aren't enough to like do exactly what you have in mind until you try it, and then you realize, okay, I need to take a step back and redefine how like I'm going to take steps forward. So like managing scope, I think, comes with experience. But now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I know how to make like a tutorial video, and I know it's going to take this long to do it. So again, rather than promising I'm going to have something out, like a video out within the next week or so, I'll like try to just I guess in my own head, like I'll tell myself that I need to have this like certain parts done by like X day. I think like being like able to schedule everything is the most difficult part of being able to be like, okay, I need the first few minutes of this video to be done by whenever, and then the next part of the video to be done by another day. Like having a schedule is something that will really help you.
Yeah, I feel like for me, at least, it's just experience. I mean, I think you mentioned that, like, obviously it's good to go in knowing that thinking too big or expecting to do too much in a short amount of time is not a good thing, because you'll end up obviously trying to do too much. You won't hit the deadline. It depends what the deadline is, because if it's something you've actually got to do, like maybe your job or something else, then there are deadlines. But like you said, for your videos, if possible, having no deadline is better because you don't rush it. But at the same time, like, exactly. I rather than thinking of a deadline, I think of it more as I have like a set constraint time limit on my videos. I need them to be between 10 and 20 minutes. That's, I think, a big enough range for the videos, normally somewhere between 10 and 20. So when I'm thinking of what to teach, if it's going to take more than that for sure, then it's a question of, do I kind of not do the code along style where I actually type everything out, which a lot of people do like the code along. That's, I mean, that's for what I do anyway, which is primarily coding stuff. So I could sacrifice that to make the video short enough, or just do the code along and let the video be 25, 30 minutes, but people don't like that because it's just too long. So I think that kind of balance is still not the easiest thing to figure out, but after doing like hundreds of videos, I think I've got pretty good at judging that time. Like, the scope of this video will take this many minutes once it's edited.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually like the most impressive part about like your channel is that you have so many videos. Like, I only have 10. So like when I look at how much content that you're putting out, I'm like, how does he do it all? Well, how does he have the time?
My schedule's changed over time. Like, when I got properly into it, I was like, one a day is the best. And then I did burn out a little bit there because I didn't struggle in actually producing the videos because it's just a topic I already know for the most part. I just teach a simple thing and then record it and edit it and upload it. But the main problem with that was there was really less or no planning. I would just jump into a video. That's how I could manage it because I didn't really need to plan. And my videos aren't very edited. They're just code along, pretty much just cuts for the most part, apart from like intro and outro stuff. So they don't take very long to produce, so long as I've got a good enough idea in my mind. And one thing I do now that I didn't used to do is actually prepare the videos. So if I'm trying to teach how to do this, even though I've probably done it before, I'll make like a prototype project and do it on the day just before I record to make sure I still know everything and there's no slip-ups. And then once it's working, I'll just delete it and then like do it again. Or I'll sometimes push to GitHub before I record and then revert and then work towards what I had. So
it's pretty cool.
I can like see the changes. So if I coded something differently, then I'll have to think about that. Like maybe I did it wrong, or maybe I thought of something better the second time going through it, or whatever. Yeah, it's just practice and experience and whatever works. My older videos, I look back on them and I could criticize every little thing about them. I think the worst thing at the time was my mic, or just the way I spoke was just horrible. Like, it was really quiet and quite like, so we're gonna put this component on this cube. Man, yeah, everyone's got to start somewhere.
You can easily criticize. Yeah, exactly. You can easily criticize like the first stuff you've ever done. I mean, I would criticize the stuff I've done like the most recently, but I feel like everything's a learning experience. So you only get better over time just by doing it more.
Yeah, like I've never felt a need to delete my oldest videos, but I don't want to see them. And when people comment on them, I just try and avoid it. I'm like, oh, that video's like 2 or 3 years old. Just ignore it. Like, I hate it when someone comes to me and they're like, I like your videos, especially that video. And I'm like, really? That video from 2 years ago that I thought was quite bad? But apparently it's not as bad as I thought. I mean, everyone's more critical of their own stuff, of course.
Exactly. I was about to say the same thing. It's like, it's easy to criticize yourself, but I think other people are like, look what this guy did, and that's the most impressive part.
But even then, like, the reason why I feel bad when someone watches a 2-year-old video and is happy with it is because I know I could redo that video now much better. So it's like, I feel like I'm not giving them as much as I could be. But at the same time, if I had to update every video and make a second, like an up-to-date version every single year or something, then I would never have new content. It would just be over and over again how to make an inventory in 2018, how to make an inventory in 2019. And even then,
if you ever run out of content, there you go.
If I ever run out of content, I could just remaster old videos, exactly. If I ever run out. I mean, there's still plenty of stuff to cover, and there's more areas that I haven't really got into that I do want to get into, like shaders is one of the main things. And some more of the physics stuff with like inverse kinematics and some of this like procedural animation and stuff. It's exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
But like there's just so many things and only limited time. But yeah, I'll make time for it. I've probably said that for the last like 5 streams, but I've got a lot going on at the moment. So when I do find some time, that's the stuff I want to look into. Shaders especially. Shaders are cool.
Yeah.
But complicated.
Yeah, it's so cool, but it's like it literally is a different language if you're trying to code it, and like shader graph itself is I'm not sure how much experience you have with it, but with me, I look at it and like I know this is visual scripting, but like I still don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, the people I've spoken to who have done shader programming and then who still do shader stuff now recommend shader graph because it's basically feature complete enough now that you don't, for the most part, you don't need to code shaders and save yourself from coding shaders because it takes longer for the most part and it's harder to read and see. Like with shader graph, you get the visual output at every node. Like you get to see it being built up, and like debugging it's probably easier because you can see at what step something's gone wrong. And it's one of the few cases where visual stuff is better. For the most part, people say normal programming for your game logic is better than visual scripting for your game logic. For the most part. The only benefit to visual being you just prefer it because you might not like coding. But with making shaders, there are many more benefits to doing it visually because it's a visual thing. It's literally coding graphics effectively, right? Coding the rendering. So I think when I get back into it, I'll go for shader graph. But I have programmed shader stuff in the past, very basic on a basic level, which helps you understand like the vertex and it's been so long I forget the terminology for like the different functions you have and the color data and the vertice data. Yeah, it's its own area. Oh, we've got Chiro in chat. And who else? We've got Jason, we've got Pixels here. There's quite a lot of familiar faces, even though we're streaming 7 hours earlier than normal. But yeah, apparently some people are committed enough to tune in anyway.
It's awesome.
Yeah, cool to see so many people. What else? So obviously, like you're pretty new to the whole YouTube side of things for this, but do you have any tips for starting a channel in 2020? That's like new YouTube video title there. How?
Sure. I would say like find your own niche is the biggest thing. Like my videos have taken off because like there wasn't that much content covering animation, and like that's something I wanted to learn. So I went through the docs. I found as much content and like videos and tutorials as I could, and I basically like packaged up the stuff that I wanted to learn or like that I learned into a more concise and effective video for like teaching people. So that's kind of my thing, is like find something that other people haven't really done. I think it's really hard to find something that nobody has done, period, because it just, there's so many people out there. But find something that isn't covered too much and see if you can put your own spin on it.
Yeah, so like the thing is, if you go in with that knowledge and that mindset, then you can grow pretty quickly. Because like you said, you only have 10 videos, but at the same time, you've got like 4,000 subscribers, which for 10 videos is pretty successful. And in my case, when I started, I didn't think about niches. I just thought about teach this, teach that, teach that. And some of the videos got like barely any views and some did. So I have a lot of videos. Some are good, some aren't. Or like some are some are in demand and some just aren't at all. Like some videos will never get found because people have done it 100 times already and they've already got the views and traction. And then when I have actually found a niche, like when I did do Discobot stuff at the time, there weren't many people doing it. There were still people doing it, of course, but it was kind of a niche, and that took off. That gave quite a boost. And then we kind of slowed down a bit because I just didn't do anything more interesting for a while. And then I did some ECS and dot stuff. That was niche. No one's covering it. That gave us a little boost. Awesome. And then it flattened out again. And then more recently this year, I've been doing a lot of multiplayer, and the other people I've done multiplayer have either done the old Unet, which is deprecated, so people don't like watching that anymore. Or if they have done other things like Photon and Mirror, there's just not a lot of it. There's the odd person doing it, but people liked it, and that gave us the most recent boost. So rather than just all your content being like less content but in demand, mine's been like a lot of content, but only some of it has been more in demand. So yeah, I see it. I'm like, damn, I've done.
I mean, if you throw what's the metaphor is like if you throw something at the wall, it's like eventually it'll stick.
Yeah, what is it? What is it you throw at the wall? I can't remember. Who knows? Yeah, but I mean, I didn't go in thinking I'm just going to try whatever until it works, because obviously it makes sense. Niches probably work because people want the content. But when I started, at least, I was just at school. I did not plan on doing this kind of full time. I don't do like YouTube full time. I just do everything here full time. YouTube's just like a part of it.
Yeah.
But I never thought of that being one of my main things. So sure, I wanted to grow the channel, but I wasn't thinking strategically. I was just like, I'll make videos. I'll make the videos that people want to see with the right tags and the right metadata stuff to get seen. At the start, I was just
that stuff also helps too. It's like I don't know if you use this thing called like TubeBuddy. It's like this thing that basically shows you the analytics of a lot of like the videos that you watch. It'll show you like what tags are on the video.
I have the Social Blade add-on, and that tells you all the stuff.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, sometimes if I'm doing a video on a topic and I've seen someone else has done it successfully, I'm not just going to go rip it, but if I see what tags they've used, I'm like, clearly people are using the multiplayer tag. Who would have guessed, right? Or whatever else.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if I'm doing multiplayer videos and I come to make a new multiplayer one, I just copy my tags from my previous multiplayer video and then maybe tweak it to add in what this video does more specifically. But the tags that work are obviously like animation, how to animate in Unity, animation this, or for multiplayer, I don't know. Did I say multiplayer animation first? I can't remember. You do animation, I do multiplayer, and I'm getting confused now. But yeah, so that was about tips for starting a channel. I wonder, I've seen recently a lot of people getting into game dev channels. There's so many popping up. Like, either that or I just haven't seen them before, and now I'm seeing them for some reason. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I feel the same way, and I feel like a lot of the people start out with like their first devlog. That's something like I'm excited to eventually get into when I actually start working on my own game. Is like doing my devlog #1 is like the one that I find that people like just take off with.
Yeah.
In terms of like the views and everything.
Yeah. Like anything I've worked on has been just personal project stuff, and like the main reason why I've not made those into actual games is because I know the scope of what I want to make is too big. It'll take me too long, so I'm just doing it on the side as like a hobby thing. But I'm sure there'll be a time where I actually sit down and I'm like, all right, make a new Unity project, and I'm gonna release it on Steam one day for I don't know what game it's gonna be. I have no idea. I have no plans right now for that because I've got too much other stuff. But yeah. I mean, I never thought I'd release like a course with GameDev TV. Like, that was already baffling enough, considering, like we both said, we both watched them like when we started. So it's weird going full cycle. I remember being taught by, well, it was Ben back when I started, but now they've redone the Unity course, and I think Rick's done most of the remaster for it.
Oh, really? Okay.
But yeah, I think Ben's still in there doing some of the course stuff. But it's still weird, like, going that full cycle, and I remember having, like, my first call of them, and I was like, it's weird talking to them after watching the content, but,
yeah, surreal. It's really cool, though. Like, you must have, like, hundreds of thousands of people who are, like, taking your own course, which I think is, it's cool having, like, a YouTube channel, and you see, like, people viewing it and everything, the view count going up, but, like, you actually have, like, literal students, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, not quite 100,000 people have bought the course yet. I mean, they have on their...
102,000 is what I meant by that.
What do you say? Oh, hundreds
like
to thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, they have, like, total on Udemy, like, I think 700 or 800,000, but obviously that's not, like, how much each course has. That's everything collectively together. But yeah, it's been out for 3 weeks now. What day we're on? We're on Thursday now, right? So it came out 3 weeks ago 3 weeks ago today.
Well, congrats on the launch.
So, yeah.
Still, like, I feel like you're still in the launch period.
It is still the launch period, I guess. Yeah. I mean, we've got like sales coming up for Black Friday and Christmas and stuff, so maybe we're gonna see a boom there with people getting it for Christmas. Yay! Get to get Dapper Dino's multiplayer course. Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, it is weird. I actually released my own Udemy course like months ago, like back near the start of this year, I think. but it was one I'd done on my own, and I'd never done it before, and I did it purely for trying it. Like, obviously, I tried to make it good, but because it's my first one, I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never used Udemy's interface, and it took ages to get the whole process of making the course and getting it released. And but once I've experienced it, now I know what it's like if I ever do my own course again.
Yeah. And with this one, you're under the GameDev.tv umbrella, which is, I'm sure, like super beneficial in getting exposure.
Yeah, it's actually it is pretty weird to think about that, because obviously I think most stuff I do is this old Dapper Dino everything, but now it's like seeing my face on the on their website with the little GameDev TV logo. It feels strange, but in a good way. So yeah,
professional, man.
Yeah, very professional. And it's cool seeing some people on the course say like, I know him from his YouTube channel, or people on the YouTube comment saying, I found you from the course. So yeah, just the kind of
that's super. That's must be like awesome, like cross pollination.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I always wondered why they had an Unreal multiplayer course but not a Unity one, and it was pretty much just because no one knew how to do Unity multiplayer, and I'm sure they could have learnt it, but then they like saw the channel and were like, oh, you're doing it, and yeah, we made a course. So that's just long story short.
How long did it take you to do the course?
Well, we started conversations back in March, but that was just like reaching out to them. It's funny how it started was just some person on Twitter, sorry, I can't remember who, that watches my videos and takes their courses, said like, you two should collaborate. And then their person on social media was like, I'm like up for discussions about that. And I was like, what? and then I messaged them back, and then I got in contact with Rick and then Sam and everyone, and basically I proved to them I was worthy. And then we were like, yeah, let's make a multiplayer course. And then we prototyped it, and then got to the point where we're like, yep, this is a good thing to teach. And then the teaching process. So technically from first conversations to release, it took, so we released it in the 10th month. So it took us 8 months or 7 months from conversation starting, but it's not like I was actually working on the course 7 months straight or anything.
Okay.
Yeah. It still feels weird that it was only 7 months ago when I first contacted them, and here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. That's still a fast turnaround. Like, you know,
relatively,
I feel like, for you to, I'm sure there's stuff you had to learn for the course too. Like, did you know everything before you started, or did you have to pick some stuff up?
Well, the main stuff I learned was just about like getting on board with being on the team and everything, and using software like Notion, and just getting me set up with my GameDev TV, this, that, the other, and that was more of the stuff. When it comes to Unity and the course itself, I already like we came up with an idea of the game, which was an RTS, and then it was basically just up to me to spend my own time just prototyping, building a little RTS in Mirror multiplayer, and then eventually I was like, I kept giving them updates like, here's how it's coming along, and we discussed like features, you know, maybe we should add a mini-map, or maybe we don't bother adding that, or whatever. So I kind of took the lead actually in making the project, but with their kind of guidance and overseeing. And yeah, like I said, for learning, I already knew pretty much all the Mirror stuff, or at least I'd hoped so. If I'm teaching a paid course on it, I'd better know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's like the 80-20 rule, right? I've only used probably 20% of Mirror, but you only need to use that 20% 80% of the time. So, you know, it's pretty exciting. Have you got any? Well, actually, no. Like you said, the game dev's kind of on the side. But do you plan on, like you said, one day working on your game? Do you plan on making like an actual commercial release, or just a?
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
Yeah, like a published game on Steam with.
I have ideas.
Yeah.
Yep, Steam and everything. Like I have like 3 specific ideas of like fully fleshed out of exactly how I want them to be. I just don't have like the knowledge to make them yet, which is the biggest thing holding me back. So like while I learn all the stuff that I need, I'm doing this YouTube channel and like kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone of building an audience of people who are interested in the stuff I have to show, and also learning the stuff I need to know to actually make them what I want.
Yeah, I think having an audience is great, because I remember live streaming a bit on Twitch when I had time, and I was just working on making random game stuff and people would watch. And if I ever coded something and then someone was like, hey, you should do it that way, I've never thought about that, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. there are just certain things people would point out, like, wait, you don't know the shortcut for doing this? You just learn random things that you didn't know.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, recently, I actually never answered the, like, what did you learn recently question, I don't think. But for me, we were making something in Mirror, and we had this issue where, sure, you can have character movement and it syncs fine, but it's weird when you try and warp characters. If you just set their transform position to be somewhere else in the scene, it just doesn't work. I think it just is like, that movement was too much and it's just teleports you back or just doesn't even take you there in the first place. And I don't know the root of the issue, but then I found out in Mirror they're aware of this, so they've got like a custom function for server teleport, and you pass in the point and it works. And like, I don't know why it took me this long to figure out it existed, but now I know, and yeah, that's something I wish I'd known earlier, but I learned it this week.
So it was like the character is like lagging, or like,
well, like there's certain games where, for example, Among Us, we're making like a little Among Us clone. It's not really, yeah, and whenever the meeting happens, you all go to the table, like in the spawn area. Well, it's a table in one of the maps, and just going through all the players on the server and like warping them back just by setting their position wouldn't work, even though the server has authority and they have sync transforms, which just syncs their transform. So we thought, well, just setting their position on the server should set it on all the clients, and it just didn't even move them at all. So when the meeting ended, you weren't all back in the starting room, you were just back where you were when the meeting was called. So for now, we just kind of left it and forgot about it. And then like 2 days ago, I was on the Mirror docs, and I was all like in the Mirror Discord server, and I saw someone talking about like .server teleport, and I was like, what? And then it basically says, call this on the server and all the clients will be teleported, like, or the client will be teleported there for all people. And yeah, I don't know, that's
pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, you look into the docs enough and you'll find the answers that you're looking for, but I feel like a lot of people aren't willing to open up the docs because they're either intimidated by it or like don't know exactly what to search for.
Yeah, I'm happy to look in the docs. It's just that there's so much stuff that I could read through every single class before I start making a game, but I think it makes more sense to make your game and then get stuck and then look up the docs.
Exactly.
Or you can't really search in the docs like character doesn't teleport when I do it or whatever, but that's why the Discord server's better for like actual questions. And then once you see, oh, server teleport exists, then go to the docs, type in server teleport and see that class has that function that does that with these parameters. So yeah, it's useful to have a mix of both. I always keep docs open, and then like if I'm using Mirror, I usually keep that server open, just in case. But I'm guessing for Unity, everything you do is kind of in Unity. Like, for example, animation is out of the box as opposed to Mirror, which is a third-party thing. So do you just spend all your time on the Unity docs, or do you ever use like
for the most part, for like all my videos it has been, but like as I'm trying to learn more about game development, like I am doing solo dev, so like I've been playing with Blender for longer than I've been playing with Unity, and I use a Mac, so I have Logic Pro X for like audio stuff, and I bought this thing for it's called Syntorial, which is teaching me how to use synths, which I want to use for like the background music and stuff for both my videos and for like my future games.
Yeah, because I think when it comes to docs and forums and help with Unity, it's quite interesting because every other thing you use, it's like Stack Overflow. But if you ask a Unity question on Stack Overflow, no one likes, you get told to go away or something. Like I've seen plenty of people, I've never personally asked a Unity question on Stack Overflow, but I've seen many, and they all just get told to go away, go to the Unity Reddit, go to the Unity forums. Because I get it, like if you're asking a question about Unity and it's not like a C# question or like an actual programming question, then it's not the right place to get help. I don't know. I guess it depends on the nature of the question, because some people might ask like, how do I do this to a list in Unity? But the fact it's in Unity doesn't matter. It's just a C# question. So the Unity forums, the one thing I don't like, unless I'm just being dumb, but there's no like search. Like there is a search, but it doesn't just search that forum for like posts with a title with this word or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm just using it wrong, but I've never found it to be useful for that.
No, I personally just Google what
Yeah.
the issue that I'm having, and then I search by like year, so it's not too old, because I find
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff on the forums are like from 2014 and outdated.
Yeah, that's the first thing I check. I mean, sometimes like the oldest post is really old, but then on that thread, the newest post is really new. Sometimes these conversations go on for years, I've seen. Or like just there's a thing in 2015 and then no one comments, and then 4 years later someone's like, have you fixed it yet? 4 years later. It's like
I've seen that too.
There is a search, but it's pretty hidden and it's annoying to use, Chiro says, who works at Unity. Is it? I mean, I think at the top right there's a search button, but whenever I've tried it, like I'll search something, but it doesn't seem to be searching the forums properly. It seems to be searching something else. I don't know. What else do we have? Yeah, what's your favorite and least favorite parts of game dev?
I mean, learning. I've like found like a passion in learning new things, which I know is like very vague, but it's true, because like I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have this like curiosity about how things work. So I think like my biggest thing is that with coding itself, like it could be super frustrating when something doesn't work and you don't understand why, and then you have to look up why it's not working. But at the same time, there's like the benefit of, okay, if you take a step back in that situation and you just look at the broad scope of, I don't understand something right now, but after I look something up and I take the time to learn it, I will. Like that's both like the most frustrating part of like it's hard and it's complicated, but at the same time you're growing as a person and like your knowledge is increasing. Like to think of it as a game, like knowledge +1 when you learn something new. Like I think that's both the most satisfying part of game dev, but it's also the most frustrating part.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about my answer for that. Most frustrating part, yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes it's the fact that I want to code something, but to make it work, I have to then go in and mess with particles or colliders and rigid bodies and like just, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have any huge like pet peeve about it all.
I actually might change my answer to from like the difficulty of coding to I still don't understand what I think it's called a Quaternion. I don't understand them very much, and like I've been trying to learn them for the past few months, and like the videos that I've been watching just haven't really clicked. So that's like my number one answer.
Yeah, I try and stay away from it because like the way they even display it in the editor is as a vector. It's called like a Euler, right? A Euler vector or a Euler rotation. And most of the time in code, you can just avoid quaternions by converting to a Euler. Or you can like, instead of setting the rotation to equal a quaternion, you can set it equal to something dot Euler, pass in the like degrees. I can't remember.
Doesn't a Euler have like a gimbal lock or something? Is that like why you try to avoid using that, or am I mistaken?
I can't remember. It's all to do with something about when you go past 360 and it goes back around, isn't it? Or like I don't know.
We're getting corrected by Walrus that it's pronounced Euler.
Euler angles. So, yeah, I apologize.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a common mistake, and that's probably why I say it, is because I hear other people saying Euler instead of Euler. But yeah, I'll try and store that one in my head somewhere. And yes, it's used to avoid gimbal lock. So I know there's like 4 components to a quaternion, and I never got the W or whatever.
Exactly.
I'm sure. Maybe I'll look it up. I haven't spent too much time looking it up because it's never actually caused me any issues. Which I guess is a good thing to Unity, is like somehow even with this thing I don't understand that I use all the time, rotation, I've still never had issues with it. So quaternion.identity, I'm guessing that is a constant for the equivalent of 0, 0, 0 in Euler angles, whatever that is in quaternion. But isn't that just 0, 0, 0? Like,
I have no idea. This is the part where I'm like, I still don't understand it enough to talk about it.
Yeah, I just ignore it. There's a reason why they don't show rotation in the editor as a quaternion, but then obviously the reason they store it and convert it is, like you said, for this gimbal lock. What even does that mean? Do you know enough to talk about it right now, or is it something I should look up later?
I think it like to in my own understanding, it's like when the X, Y, or Z axis, like if you rotate it to the point where it's like on the same rotation as one of the other axes, it's like no longer will rotate in a specific way. Something like that. That's my very vague understanding of it. It's like you can't rotate in a certain axis anymore because they're like on the same, they've like locked at the same rotation.
Yeah. So I feel like now that you mention it, I might have noticed that, or at least experienced something similar. I don't know. And yeah, someone, maybe Raj in chat, was correcting me there. Like a default Quaternion is 0001. Obviously, I don't have a clue what the W means, but yeah, I've noticed it is actually a 1 as the default for that, as opposed to 0, as opposed to 2. I don't know like what it actually means necessarily, but yep, I will. I should definitely look that up. I think I opened the wiki page for Quaternion once and was like, bye. Just gonna leave that how it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I asked one of my friends who does like mathematics at university, and he does physics at university, but did like mathematics in sixth form here in the UK, and yeah, he doesn't have a clue, or like he doesn't have a clue. I think he told me just to not bother, so maybe he does know and just wanted to save me the stress of trying to look into it. But yeah,
eventually I'm intimidated by the point where I will need to know how it works, and then I just like have to take the time to learn it.
Yeah, because I've whenever I've seen other people's tutorials in the past when I was learning, they just said to think of it, just ignore it basically. So then now when I'm teaching, I also do the same thing because I'm like, well, everyone else says that, and also I don't know it, so I don't want to give a incorrect explanation. I just assume if you use Unity, you know that quaternion.identity means like 000 for the rotation in the editor. Like that's what it would equal. That's something I'll learn this week, and then in next week's stream I'll say it. So what I learned this week was how a quaternion actually works and what it means.
I'll be there for watching that just so I can learn myself too.
Maybe I'll just wait and ask Freya, because yeah, Freya does a lot of math and shader and all that stuff, and yeah, I've actually chatted with her quite a bit before at an event, and I didn't want to bother just asking about that, but I'm sure she's the kind of person who would like to talk for hours on end about maths and stuff. And
the videos that I've seen on the channel is like super complicated and complex, but like it's all presented in such a very digestible way.
Yeah, it's because diagrams help a lot. I think that's the thing. Diagrams for maths and drawing vectors and angles and stuff, and Quaternion identity tutorial, just ignore it. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Just ignore what it is. Just think it means 000 in degrees, and you're good. So what else? If you could have worked on an existing game that's been released, or start working on it now, I guess a lot of games obviously go on for a long time, what would it be? Would it be Hades? You said you like Supergiant.
Yeah, those like those I met them actually so I'm like relatively older, I would say, than like you're like not even 20, right?
I'm 19.
I've got almost a decade on you. So when I was in university, I interned at a trade show. Do you know what a trade show is?
Kind of.
It's
not
like
exactly.
PAX, like you know at PAX.
Like the convention.
So I interned at the convention. I interned at the company that puts on PAX, and I met it was like a decade ago. I met the guys who made Bastion, so I met Supergiant Games because I was like putting on the show. And when I met them, they gave me like their business card and everything because I said like I was super interested in games. And it was like I still have that business card and I still have like their phone number and everything. So eventually I might like give them a call and just say, hey, what's up?
Hey, check out my channel.
My answer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, I know how to use Unity. Are you guys interested? But realistically, like if I could work on any dev team, it would definitely be theirs. Like I've been watching have you ever watched No Clip, which is a documentary channel?
I might have, but I don't know by name.
Okay. No Clip is like this YouTube documentary channel that interviews and does documentaries on game development. So they have this series called Developing Hell, which is the like a 5-part series on how Supergiant made Hades, and they're each like 45 minutes to an hour long. and it's just like really interesting to get like the inside story of how a group of like less than 20 people can make a game that's now nominated for 8 Game of the Year awards.
I've seen a channel that gets developers for games and what makes them watch speedruns of their own games. And I saw that with Hades. I think they got maybe like 2 of the people. I don't know which 2. I don't know names or roles, what they do, but yeah, they got like a couple people from the Hades team to watch Hades speedruns or like the current world record speedrun or something. It's interesting watching the devs talk about their own game when it's being speedrun and even realizing, wait, you can do that in our game? Like things like that. And then, yeah.
What was the speedrun? Like, I'm curious because it takes me quite a bit to get through it.
Well, I think the speedrun was about 7 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think the average time for Hades run is like 20 to 30 minutes in that range. I think is like average. I can't remember my best time. I haven't even tried speedrunning it, so my best time is just how long it took me. But obviously they are like, as soon as they enter the room, they are killing everything and getting into the next room ASAP. Like there's no advantage in the game to being fast, apart from speedrunning, just because you want to. But yeah. Jason's saying he still has an old Telltale Games business card in a box somewhere. I think the only interesting business card I have is Bracky's business card that I got from him, but he's now gone, so that's a shame.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's pretty cool that he had one though. Like, yeah. And did you met him at like the Global Game Jam? Or?
No, it was at this like Unity event back in February. They just invited some people to go to the offices in Copenhagen, and we got told stuff. We got some like workshops, meet the people working there, see what it's like at the office, and had some talks from people about stuff in the engine. So obviously I can't say what we talked about because some of it was current stuff and some of it was upcoming stuff. But yeah, and he wasn't actually there. Like the event was about 4 or 5 days long, I think. And he lives in Denmark because it was in Copenhagen, and he wasn't like there for the event, but he came and ate with us once and said hi to everyone and stuff. And yeah, some people there already met him. I hadn't met him, and I don't think he knew who I was. But yeah, because it was a small event and invites only, then I assume like because he knows I was there, so I must be someone relevant, right? I'm not just some random guy they dragged in. But yeah, it was cool like getting to meet him, and then we got his business card, and then I guess now he's gone. But I think in his video he did say that he may come back. It's not like a definite the channel is done forever. He just said like taking a long break with no. He didn't say yes or no about returning, so we'll just have to see.
I mean, his like schedule was pretty crazy. Like I know he took some weeks off, but every week to put out like something with the quality and like he had like he had a team of people helping him, but like I can't imagine doing that for years and not getting burnt out. So
yeah.
Like he also set himself up. I think that like I can't imagine how many views he gets a day. You know?
Yeah, like I mean, it helps like being there from the start and having the beginner focus of content because he's like built up over a long time, and then with the recent few years, like Unity at least has had an influx of a lot of people, and Bracky's is there with all these colorful thumbnails, cheerful attitude, beginner tutorials. Like people love that stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess especially with having a successful channel, there's the success, but there's also a lot more people to manage, whether that's just for the channel, Discord, and then he's doing other stuff too. I don't know what else exactly he was doing, and I don't know what he's doing now. I have no idea, but like you said, maybe in 2 years' time he might reappear on YouTube. Maybe he'll host a jam or something. I don't know.
Yeah, everyone's hoping that he does.
Yeah.
Doesn't take too long.
When I got the notification for him leaving video, I was like, what? I was like, why? I didn't realize like.
Same.
I thought like, he didn't seem like he's been burnt out. He seems like still very happy about it, and obviously I'm sure he still like enjoyed doing stuff, but on the channel and whatever else. But at the same time, yeah, he started young. I think like he started younger than me. Obviously he's older than me now, but he's been going for a lot longer.
Yeah.
If that's the only thing you've been doing for that many years, yeah, he wants to try other stuff out. He wants to, like he said in the video, explore the world and do other things. And maybe like COVID time is not the best time to get out and explore the world, but
yeah, I find that pretty funny timing too.
Yeah. The real question is who will fill the power vacuum. Wait, was that a follow up to something else, Jason? I have no idea what he's talking about there.
I think he means like fill the space that.
Oh, it's a metaphor. Okay, I thought it might be a
Yeah.
metaphor, and I didn't want to interpret it wrong. But yeah, I mean,
That was my understanding of it.
I'm trying to think if anyone else does the same kind of content, which is beginner tutorial, but not like focused on one thing. Like he does kind of everything beginner. Yeah, I don't know like who else would fill in that space, at least right now. I don't know. I wonder where all kind of Brecky's viewers have kind of spread out to for content now. Like, because he had a lot of beginners there, and there's still plenty of Unity content. It's just like,
Yeah.
where will they go?
I think that's why like having a niche is kind of helpful. So like it covering as much as he was able to cover was one, impressive on his part, but like two, it leaves like open spaces in so many different places. Like for me, like people might look up animation and rather than finding his stuff, they might find mine, and then they might find multiplayer for you and all that. Everybody has their own space in the game dev community.
Yeah, so the thing is, like, as well, he covered pretty much everything, but at a beginner level. So all his comments were just full of people, can you do this but more advanced? But then if he took every topic in Unity and then did it a bit more advanced, that would be how many more videos? If he's covered everything in beginner, like, there's always going to be people seeing you give them one thing and want something else. And obviously, yeah, I encourage people in my videos to give comments about what you want to see next and stuff. But that doesn't mean that because you commented it, that's going to be next week's video. Especially when there's lots of people commenting various different things, and some things are just not practical to do for a tutorial video and stuff. And yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, and I feel the same way. And it's like I add everything to like a Trello board of like, here are future topics that people want to see, but at the same time, like I go as far as to not giving myself even a strict date on when the next video is coming out. It's like you might have weekly videos, but I'm like, it'll be done when it's done, and I hope that you're there to watch it. And if you're not, then like it'll still be there. So
I've always
I feel like the strict schedule's a little scary for me.
Yeah, I've always been experimenting with my schedule. Like I said, at some point I was doing a video a day, as in like Monday to Friday. And it depends on what style of video, because you do like edited videos like more than like what I do, which is just cuts and coding, right? And it just depends what kind of topics you're covering and what your audience likes. And yeah, my schedule now is one a week. I try and stick to one a week, especially now the course is out. I actually have time to do that. I'm not recording every single day, which that was I enjoyed it, and it's just still a lot. It takes a lot of you talking all that time, especially on some days where
there's a time and place.
Yeah,
there's a time and place for everything.
I'd be recording lectures and then have, for example, a stream like this in the evening, and my voice would just not want that. But yeah, now just doing one channel video a week. I was doing Sundays because I thought, work on other stuff during the week, and then at the weekend I can just do a video. But then I got to the point where, no, I want the weekend for relaxation. I need to separate work and hobby and whatever. So I've pushed it. So
100%.
I'm doing videos, at least now I plan on doing them on Mondays. I did this week's Monday, and I'm planning on doing next week's Monday.
That's a question I have for you is like, do you have like a day that you find to be more successful for your channel? And like, regarding like videos, like a certain time, like my most popular video is like one of my shortest, and I find it hard to like fit the stuff that I'm trying to teach into a shorter time frame. But at the same time, it's like if I make something that's too long, people just might not even bother,
Yeah, when you said time at first, I thought you meant time in the day, but time as in duration of video, or both, I guess. I mean, there's so many factors.
Both. A certain day of the week is more of the question. And,
yeah, I mean, see, the thing is, for me, day of the week, I haven't found to be that big of a factor. I find it more, because if someone's going to watch YouTube, like, and do this kind of stuff, they pretty much do it every day. I think it's more about the time in the day. Time zones are, like, obviously the main thing here. And for me, personally, I've tried various different things. I've tried, as soon as I finish editing the video, upload it. But then that can heavily vary. And I don't have a schedule. I don't tell people I'm releasing at a certain time on a certain day. But when I do release, it tends to be roughly 7 p.m. my time. So it's like the evening in the UK. So people in the UK are at home. They've probably had dinner maybe, or tea. And then they might be doing some hobby programming in the afternoon. I don't know. That's my thinking behind it. Even though my biggest demographic is the US. So I'm thinking if it's me 7 p.m., then what is it in the US? I know US has a big time zone range,
2.
but Like,
well, it's 2 o'clock Eastern, and then
Yeah.
it's like 11 on the West Coast.
yeah, I mean, you can't make it work for every time zone, and sure, I could probably schedule the video to come out in the middle of my night when I'm sleeping, and then it's afternoon for America, and maybe that would work, but then all the people in the UK wouldn't get it until they wake up the next morning, and then they'd have to go, most likely they'd watch it the evening, so it'd be a big gap between then, and I don't know, the YouTube algorithm, and how many hours after a video comes out is it being recommended before it kind of slows down a bit. There's so many factors. It's all about experimentation, I think. But yeah, I guess time, I think about the afternoon, day, whatever day, and then duration of videos, for me, 10 to 20 works. Coding videos tend to be a bit longer, but if it's a video less coding, more showing some new thing off, or doing very, very little coding, then maybe like the 10-minute mark is a good thing to aim for, because yeah, people like shorter videos, but how much information can you cram in there? That's the balance. But yeah, I think everyone it works differently for as well. It's not like you can see that person makes videos and they do that length of video, so I should too. Especially if it's different kind of content, right? Everything's different.
Yeah, I guess I could just like, I should probably think more of like internally, like what do I like to watch, and then try to probably replicate that. That would probably make the most sense.
Yeah, I think like for people doing hobby stuff and working in game dev, like to watch tutorials, it's most likely evening, but everyone's evening is different in different time zones, so it's a case of which time zones do you target, and yeah, like someone's going to be left behind, someone's going to be asleep when your video's coming out, but
definitely.
Yeah. I mean, the actual time when a person watches the video doesn't matter to them, right? They're just watching the video. But to you, it's about like, how many people will see this, and how many people will be asleep when it comes out. And I think it is true that when a video comes out, it does have more traction initially, then it kind of slows down. But then if the video gets lots of views and stuff, then it can come up top of searches for a very, very long time. I'm sure if you search DiscoBot, my DiscoBot videos might come up high, even if other people, even if they have more popular videos, I don't know. Because I think my DiscoBot video is like my second most viewed thing on the channel, recently overtaken by a multiplayer video. So yeah,
that means these multiplayer videos must be doing like crazy good.
Yeah, they took off, like they've grown at a much faster rate. At least the first one, like you said, you're looking forward to your first devlog, loads of views, everyone's going to watch the devlog episode 1. It's the same with any kind of series. Like I did the first like mirror multiplayer video, how to create a multiplayer game in Unity. Like people want to know, and that one took off. I think right now it's got like 100 and something thousand views. I don't know, it's awesome. In that range. Yeah, maybe one day it'll reach 1 million, but that's gonna be a long, long time. But honestly, if the video came out at the start of this year and it's already got 100 and something thousand, and I'm gonna continue doing multiplayer, you never know.
Yeah, that's definitely like a great momentum that you have going there.
Yeah, like tutorial videos never blow up as much as like devlogs do and other like showy off videos, but I mean, as far as tutorials go, it's going pretty well. So yeah. What else? Yeah, we've had this one asked once before. I can't remember who asked it or when, but yeah, if someone said you're not allowed to do game dev anymore, what would you do to replace it?
I like my other 2 careers are pretty good. Honestly, I really like fitness and I really like making apps. So like, those are kind of the answers I have.
I guess the difference is a lot of the people I've spoken to as well, game dev is their main thing. So without it, they'd have to pick something else. But with you, obviously, it's a hobby, and you'd probably be very sad if you weren't allowed to do it for some reason. But I don't know why that would be. It's just a theoretical question. But yeah, obviously you have like backups, or not even backups. Like your main things are different anyway, so it wouldn't impact you as much as it would some people. But I think it's still.
Yeah, I would be sad though. I would be sad.
Yeah,
definitely. Like, this is something that I'm super passionate about.
If video games got banned, all video games, it became like a taboo subject.
I don't want to live in that world.
No. Let me check the chat a little bit. We haven't got very long left because you need to obviously wrap things up relatively soon.
Wow.
Yeah, time flies, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It really does. This is awesome.
Yeah, I could have a quick scroll through the chat. What else? But I think we've had these questions taking us pretty much through to the end. Let me have a look if there's anything else here. Mm-mm. Yeah, you said about your dream game. What would it be that you would need to get, or like a point to get to or achieve, or whatever, money or something that you would need to be able to go for it and make that game? Like what is the point where you go for it?
It honestly isn't even money that's like holding me back from doing it. It's sheer knowledge. Like there's just certain things that I don't know how to do yet that I see in other games, and like the ideas that I have that I need to understand shaders, and I don't know shaders, and like I need to understand some multiplayer, and well, now I can watch your videos and understand multiplayer, but like realistically there's just like it takes time to learn the stuff that I need to actually make the stuff that I want, and that's my biggest thing. Money isn't even something that's like holding me back when it comes to that. So yeah, that's like my biggest thing is I need to learn more.
When you go to like make this project, or the first one of the projects, would you still plan on having it like as a side thing, or would you kind of put a pause on everything else and focus on it? Would it always be a side
That's
thing?
the biggest thing.
You don't know.
That's a very good point. Is like now that YouTube is like becoming a bigger part of like my free time, I guess like devlogs would eventually be something that I put out on the channel, and that's more content to release there. So it's like somewhat of a priority, but I don't think I would like stop doing YouTube and then go full time into making the thing. So yeah, it's kind of hard because like honestly, at a certain point you sacrifice sleep to make sure that you can do the things that you want to do, but you need to sleep at some point, and
Yeah.
you need to sleep at least a little bit to be able to function properly. So it's like finding the balance. This brings us back to like one of the first questions of how do you balance everything. It's like it's really hard.
Yeah.
I would say that that's like the hardest thing is time management.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I have time in my free time to now work on the games, let's say. But the only problem is now that I'm doing the GameDev TV stuff and the channel stuff, which is more job-ish, even though I enjoy doing it, right? I then, when it comes to my evenings, I've had dinner, and I'm done with like work stuff. I don't feel like actually working on my games projects and stuff, even though I know I'd probably do it and be okay. But I know like I've been doing it for the rest of the day. As much as I love Unity, I don't think I can wake up in it and go to sleep after just closing it, right? I can't just have it open the whole day working on stuff, even if they're different projects. It's like I want to just chill in the evening sometimes, and I have moments where I chill.
You need downtime.
Yeah, and then afterwards maybe it gets around to like 10 p.m. ish, and I usually sleep around midnight. I mean, I sometimes have a bad habit of staying up a bit past midnight, but at least more recently I've been trying to get to bed on time, especially if I have like a call in the morning or something else like that. If I need to get up in the morning, then like I can make myself sleep on time. I used to be really bad. I used to just stay up until I crashed out and then wake up and it's like whatever. I think that I was in that phase pretty much when I finished school and I didn't have to go to school in the mornings. I just like, yeah, my schedule's now whenever I wake up and go to bed.
Yeah, totally. And like I personally, as I've gotten older, I used to be able to like just stay up until like 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'm not even that old and I'm still like past 12 and it hits me hard the next day.
Yeah. I usually just, before I go to bed or before it's getting to near midnight, I'll check my calendar and be like, oh, I've got a call at 8 a.m. in the morning. I can't stay up because if I do, then I won't wake up and be ready in time. And yeah, so I'm definitely like trying to fix my sleep schedule now that I have stuff like this to do. But for a while, like right after school, I just had that period of time where I've got stuff to do, but there's no reason why I have to do it in the morning or the evening. So I would just do it whenever, right? And I feel like we're saying with the question about doing game dev, but then you have your job, and then it's a question of do you try and do that as well, and the channel, and also free time, and whatever else. Do you even have time in the day for all that? It's
no
No.
is the answer to that.
Yeah, no.
It's no.
Yeah. Do you reckon it would be valuable to like make the project for this game you want to work on and just start making it and hit the hurdles as you go along in that project and then like learn it there? Or would it be better to envision what the project's going to be, figure out what you think you need to know, and then try and learn those beforehand?
It's a good question, but like I think one of the things that we talked about already is like building up an audience. So that's, I think, one of the hardest parts about game development that is severely underrated or like isn't thought about enough is like a lot of people can make games. Like a lot of people know how to like code and they know how to use Unity, but if you're not going to use a publisher, which like ideally I don't, because it just complicates things, at least I think so. Like how are you going to get people to notice? And you know, if I was to just stop making videos, I think like the 10 videos that I have are good, but like eventually people would stop watching them and the audience would stop growing. I'd be doing myself a disservice to like just focus entirely on this thing that I want to make and then release it to like too small of an audience.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I'm trying to think for myself as well. Like if with doing what I'm doing now and wanting to like use up more of like there's only a certain amount of time in the day, and I already use quite a lot of that time doing the stuff I have to do. Yeah. And then obviously I need a bit of time for relaxing. I can't just magic up the time for now working on a game unless I just cut more sleep hours, which is not a good idea. So
no, never a good idea.
I think it's like it's really up to the person and like, for example, what their job is, how flexible the hours are, whether they are up for like saving up some money so that they can like quit their job at some point and support themselves for a certain amount of time, set them like a 1 year or something, like maybe a 2 year goal to release something, and if it doesn't work then go back to your job, assuming it's still available.
That's scary.
Yeah.
The idea of it not working out is like the scariest thing.
Yeah, because if it doesn't work out, there's no guarantee you can get the job back that you had, and maybe you'll be stuck then. So obviously some people do it as a risk and it pays off. Some people do it as a risk and it doesn't pay off, but you know, it varies from person to person. And right now I'm just happy kind of playing it safe and doing Unity on the side. Well, I do it not on the side because I teach it mainly, but by teaching it I don't really get to make my own project stuff. But I have been thinking about getting back into live streaming, so like it's content and I can work on what I want to do and not have to think about editing it or whatever. Because right now obviously we make a weekly video and do this kind of stream thing, but we're thinking about how we can do more without just like sacrificing more time. So obviously a stream doesn't necessarily sacrifice more time if you're just streaming what you were going to be working on anyway. So yeah.
True. Yeah, live streaming is awesome. Like this in itself is really cool. I just feel like for me, I'm not like, I don't always have something to say. So it's like, I don't know how to keep people entertained for as long as like on a stream, you know? Yeah,
Q&A is a bit easier because it's just questions. It's a dialogue. When you're on your own on a stream, yeah, there might be periods of just you thinking and not talking. But at the same time,
exactly,
you might think, right here, it's me and you. But on a stream where you're working and you've got people in chat, there are like people there. And if you ask questions, they'll answer. Or they'll give feedback on what you're working on and even help you out, assuming the people there know what you're trying to do, right? Assuming they're Unity people who are knowledgeable. Like I said, when I did it in the past, people helped me out with the odd thing or gave me the odd tip. And yeah, I think it helped. So if I do it again, never know what could happen. Yeah. I think that's the best thing for learning is just like bouncing ideas back and forth with people. Because you might think you have a really good idea and then like no one thinks it's good. And that doesn't mean it's not good. But at the same time, it's also reassuring if you have a good idea, you show it to people, and then they agree, and you're like, nice, people actually like this idea, like, let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, peer feedback is like one of the most important parts of like anything you do.
Yeah, anything, and not even coding, game dev related, just in anything.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think we should probably end it out now. We're at 7 minutes too, so yeah, I think we finished off that question, right? I'm not trying to cut that one short.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything else to say about that, so yep, we're gonna have to try and end it now. So thanks everyone for watching. Obviously, this was the 10th. Do you do anything special for the 10th in a series? Maybe when we get to 100. Oh no, I'm trying to think. Will I ever get to 100 of these? Like, will that actually ever happen?
No doubt, no doubt.
I'm just imagining the playlist with 100 different game devs' faces like on the stream. Maybe one day, but if we're doing them once a week, it'll take another 2 years. So maybe in 2 years' time, I'll be saying, you know, it's episode 100. Get out the what are they called? The confetti things. I don't know. Party poppers like things.
Party poppers,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll come back here and watch this when that happens, just to say, yeah. Anyway, I need to go have some lunch. It's 2 p.m. for me, and I haven't eaten yet, so. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me on the stream. No current plans of exactly who's on next week, so I can't let anyone know. I usually try and let them know if I know, but yeah, we'll just have to stay tuned on that. I'll post it on the stream page, on the channel page, sorry, when I set up that schedule. So I'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in. Go check out Nicky's channel down below. The link is in the description, and also just read the little bio if you haven't already. But yeah, you've got animation right now, and you've got a video coming this week, next week.
Yeah,
soon.
More animation videos are on the way, and eventually we'll get into new stuff.
Yeah, so go check it out. And you're already on my channel, so I don't need to explain where that is. So yeah, in the chat, Mick is spamming Nicky's channel, so you can't miss it. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Thank you.